on the topic Sony Music Partnership presents Jean-Michel Jarre in association with VMMA. And from Sony Music Entertainment, we may welcome the Vice President Sony Music Partnerships, GSA Lars Düysen, after this video.
Hello everybody, I hope you can hear me well. And welcome to the Sony Music Partnerships session. We present Jean-Michel Jarre today. Please give a warm welcome. Thanks a lot. That's very kind.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we got 18 minutes and both of us need to keep it short and simple and sweet. So Jean-Michel, we start right away. The 70s, we see the slide here, the beginning. In the 70s, I still remember when I heard Oxygene for the first time. I was born on a very small island in the North Sea called Sylt. And I was sitting in the convertible of my mother, the Beetle convertible. It was a sunny day, we were driving to the beach, and I first listened to Oxygene. And I will never forget.
The ideal place to enjoy it.
What a nice place. Exactly. What was the first time you heard this very melody, the first time in your head before you sat down on the synthesizers and wrote Oxygene?
You know, I mean, a musical idea is always a mystery. You can work for 3 weeks on something and suddenly it's coming like this or not. So it's always a mystery. But you know, what is important for when I'm remembering these days is actually, I always considered that technology is dictating styles and not the reverse. It's because we invented the violin that Vivaldi did the music he did, because we invented the cinema that we have Fritz Lang, Godard or Tarantino, and today it's because we have VR or artificial intelligence that tomorrow we'll have new genres of music. And I've been very lucky to live 3 moments of disruptions. One was in times of Oxygene when I started, the emergence of electronic music. The second one is, of course, the emergence of digital era. And the third one, maybe the most important one, is the emergence of immersive worlds, VR, AI, and also the idea of multi-channel sounds and binaural.
It's so interesting to hear, because speaking about the importance of technology and how you promote, let me take a step back here and remind you of the time when the second album came, Equinox, in the 70s as well. And just for the record, Jean-Michel Jarre holds 3 world records for playing the biggest audiences on planet Earth. And the first, a record you achieved for playing Place de la Concorde in '79, with about 1 million people attending the concert. So the importance of live music, promoting an album like this, has changed in what way until now, 2022? How would you put that into perspective, creating something?
Actually, of course, public events have changed for lots of reasons. Because recently of the COVID, because also of for safety reasons. Probably the big concerts I've done in the past won't be possible in the same way. But fortunately today we have VR, and we'll talk about this a bit later, but I think that is a game changer for connecting, for artists, connecting with the audience, even in a wider way than in a live event situation. I think that today the potential of VR is actually not necessarily competing with live events, but it's going to be a plus and a mode of expression that we have to consider on its own.
Understand. And when you think back, talking about the importance of technology these days to promote live music, I mean, in the 80s, to remind the audience, you were performing Rendezvous in Houston after this dramatic event with the Challenger 7. But you had it very, very close, and you dedicated your concert to the families of the Challenger 7, of course. You were working closely with NASA before, and NASA was always, and technology was always a driving force in your creative process and the emergence of creativity and culture. What is the meaning of technology nowadays when you think about culture and the creative processes?
I think you know that it's very important to talk about this here in this hall. I mean, as Europeans, French or German, we have been too much separating tech and culture. And tech and culture have never been so interdependent than these days. It has always been the case, but it's more than ever today. And of course, for musicians, the fact that now we are more and more approaching our world with a sound design approach. This is my roots when I studied electroacoustic music, electronic music. I think that more than ever we need to create solid and deep bridges with tech companies. And I think for young artists today, they are very lucky to start now. And because all moments of disruptions, as I said, are keys for creativity.
And you were just mentioning one very important word just the very minute before, sound design. The moment you designed a large tone for this anniversary Swatch watch. In 1992, I believe, it was the 100 millionth Swatch watch by that time, and you designed the ringtone, the alert tone for that specific watch. Maybe worth €1 million at the moment, I don't know, collector's piece. But how would you say, what is the best practice for today, an artist collaborating with a brand and working together when it comes to really artistic reasons and views?
I think Lars, it's a very interesting point, because these days, for instance, we are in this hall. You have lots of different companies, and they are working closer and closer with artists, I think. And I've always been for creating creative bridges with companies who are mentioning in Swatch and some others I worked in the past. At the moment, I became a few months ago the ambassador of Renault to try to create the sound of the future. What is the sound of the electric car of tomorrow? It has been already explored, but in my opinion, not enough. And Renault is quite ambitious in that direction. And also to think that in tomorrow, electric cars, autonomous cars are going to be real edutainment center. We don't think enough about the fact that, for instance, the time of charging. It's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If you're adding that at the scale of numbers of cars, it's thousands or millions of hours for artists to share their music, their visual, their VR experience with the mass audience all over the world. So it's another link with brands. And I think that you have, the sky is the limit with how artists and companies can work together. Not only just being the ambassador of the image, of the effigy, or the ambassador of the brand, but trying to create something linked to the DNA of the brand that could actually fit with the DNA of a specific artist.
Super interesting. And talking about a specific artist, like coming back to live performances, I was mentioning before that Jean-Michel has a love for playing big audiences. And here behind us we see two pictures, one from your show in Paris naturally, and then the above one is in Moscow, in Mokba, where you played in front of 3.5 million people. And it would really be of interest to understand, how do you approach such a live concert? Are you at home? Are you taking a shower? Are you preparing yourself a coffee and then you think, okay, this is how I want the show to look? Or how do you make it? Describe it really.
Yeah, no, of course it's not happening like this. I don't know. Frankly, it's always been a mystery why suddenly I was invited city like Moscow, for instance, and the mayor announced this concert for 30,000 people, and actually 3.5 million people came along. It's still a mystery, but I think also beyond myself, it's linked to this idea, at the moment belonging to the past, of gathering for a unique event as a free concert. It's belonging to the real world, slightly, in my opinion, at the moment, for the safety reasons I explained just before, belonging to the past. Today, we can even go further, and we can go beyond this with VR, XR, with the fact that you can be connected. It's what I've done recently, but you can be connected with the whole world and having an audience being, sharing shoulders against shoulders with their digital twins from Shanghai, from Rio, from New York, from Berlin, from Paris, and sharing the same experience at the same time. And it's of course opening new doors and new territories.
While I was doing my homework, I was looking at a concert that you played in 2002 in Denmark, in a wind park. The idea was actually that all the energy for that concert and for everything that you needed to do the production of the show was generated by windmills that generated the energy. I mean, that could be easily a concept that would be the latest shit in 2022. Who suggested that? What was the basic idea? How did you produce that?
You know, since Oxygene, I've always been concerned and aware of environmental issues. And even the cover of Oxygene, for the people who remember the cover, was the skull inside the earth. And I always thought that we could survive in the 21st century if we could establish good faith between technology and ecology. And I know that in this hall today, with the DMEXCO22 edition, it's also at the center of lots of concepts. How to be eco-friendly, developing technology. And my belief is actually we can really bringing solutions, even as artists, and on a creative way, to try to find solutions to create positive bridges between both. I think that, for instance, VR today, if we really taking care of how we use this media, we can be quite close to the less is more concept. Being ambitious on a creative way, but being very aware of, quite aware of trying to save. I would say, energy as much as we can.
Understand. So we are slightly coming to the end. We got 5 minutes left. And we got another panel going on tomorrow morning with our friends from the Mobile Marketing Association, the MMA. And we'll be deep diving with Mark Wächter into the metaverse and what it means for an artist like yourself to perform on different platforms and put it into the bigger context. But definitely interesting to touch on what you just did lately, live in Notre Dame, your VR show, because you see many artists performing at the moment on Roblox, on Fortnite, and you produced your own concert. Can you briefly describe what was the unique thing about the show from Notre Dame?
So very quickly, I mean, the COVID played the role of an accelerator for our relationship as audience vis-à-vis and regarding digital tools. And the idea for the middle of COVID was to create for the New Year's Eve 2020 a kind of special event, and we got this idea to got a live concert in a VR Notre Dame, which has been weakened like we've been weakened in a sense as human beings, and to create a whole environment specially dedicated for a live concert, which was really a premiere. And talking about crowd and big audience, we got the shock to be followed all over the world by more than 75 million people, and that was a big shock for me and for the team working with me. And then I suddenly realized that when we are talking about immersive worlds, when we are talking about VR, everybody is talking about visuals. And very few people are aware that as human beings, the visual field is 140 degrees and the audio field is 360 degrees. It means that sound is even more important for a human being to get this immersive feeling. And my new album, OXYMORE, is linked to this idea. For the first time, trying to compose, not only to mix, but to compose and to write some music in 360 degrees and not having only this kind of frontal relationship with sounds. And I'm absolutely convinced that 360 degrees, multi-channel, multi-monos, and binaural is the future of music, because we are going to deal with immersive worlds so long. And we should never forget that stereo doesn't exist in nature. When I'm talking to you, I'm talking in mono. And when a bird is singing, is singing in mono. And then some clever guys in the 1940s said, okay, we are going to create a kind of delay between left channel and right channel to create the illusion of space. But now with technology, we can go back to, and it's a paradox, it's an oxymore in itself, to go back to the natural way of hearing sounds. And for a musician, it's again opening doors on virgin territories, and OXYMORE, I think, is well attempt to that.
Birds singing in mono is actually a great album title. I just realized.
Singing in stereo would be a big challenge anyway. We need two mouths.
Exactly. Very limited. Thank you so much. And we'll be speaking about the metaverse and VR performances tomorrow in full depth and breadth, and also about your project that you started, your own OXYVILLE, your own metaverse space that you're hosting for your own performances and to give young musicians a space and an option to perform. But definitely in the center of attention at the moment is your new album, your new work called OXYMORE, an album that will be out on the 21st of October this year. So I'd be really interested to understand the concept of this album. I think you started it all with your friend Henri. And now, what is the concept of the creative concept of this OXYMORE album?
Yeah, I think as I said, it's I mean, musicians are always dealing with space, and I've always been interested by space, not necessarily outer space, but how to create a feeling through air, through space. And with technology of multi-channel or multi-mono, we can today approach music composition in a total new direction. And the fact that instead of thinking about putting sounds in front of me, but saying, okay, I could maybe place one audio element here, and then moving it to there, and then the speed of the movement is part of the orchestration and the arrangement for musicians in the 21st century is going to take all this in consideration. You have every sound can have its own space, its own living space. And OXYMORE is also not just, it's not, when we are talking tech here, we should not forget that for a piece of art, only the result matters. We don't care about how a chef is doing the food. We enjoy the food or not. And of course, these tools should be always dedicated to a better artistic result, and it's what I tried on this last project.
Amazing. It's so great to see, how you developed over the years and put a new layer of creativity and technology every time we meet and you present a new album. Thank you so much for your time, Jean-Michel. A pleasure like always. Thank you so much for listening to Jean-Michel Jarre and Sony Music Partnership. It was a big pleasure. See you tonight.
Welcome. Thank you. See you all.